Hello, my friends. This is unexpected. Unexpected. Thanks for tuning in. This is not necessarily going to be a regular occurrence that we do something like this, but seemed appropriate. I'm in the middle of an injury crisis. I didn't have time to record a video about this, so if you're tuning in after the fact, you have until 6 o'clock Eastern, which I think is 1 o'clock, something like that, in the morning UK time, to make your changes for Game Week 6. So I would normally put out a video on a Friday about Game Week 6, but here we are. We're going to do a live stream instead. If you're here, say hello in the chat. I think it says my audio stream bitrate is too low, but it looks like it's coming through, so let me know if you can hear me all right. So I used my wild card in Game Week 5. Let's just go back and take a look at why I did that. Okay, Game Week 4, we had Harrison that was going to be out with COVID. Coming into Game Week 5, Antonio was going to be out for the red card suspension. I wasn't thrilled with Wan-Bissaka or Souček. Bissouma's been all right, but he's a 4.5. And then obviously Dennis plays for Watford. It's like, it just seemed like a good time to make the change. And so I popped the wild card early. I knew it was a risk, but this is how we sit right now. Obviously, last week, the Wolves triple defense was not exactly the one that you wanted to have. Thanks for the heads up on the sound. Sounds good. Okay, maybe it's just a weird thing with YouTube. And moving to Raphinha, Doucouré instead of Gray, because they're playing Norwich, and I think Doucouré is just as good as Gray, but cheaper. And then Bamford and Ayling, and I brought in Ramsdale, who got me 9 points last week. It was like, all right, this is looking good. Until, my friends, Bamford's injury, which he was seen in public saying he was going to miss the EFL Cup game in the middle of the week, but he thought he'd be all right for West Ham, has now officially been ruled out for West Ham. There's rumors that he's had it like taped up, but not like in a brace or a boot or anything like that. So you go like, okay, should he be fine to come back, next week? And if so, then I would keep him and just leave him on the bench. And I think lots of people would do that too, because when you look at the fixtures coming up, yeah, you're missing West Ham, which is probably the worst of the upcoming fixtures, right? At least short term. Then you get Watford, Southampton, Wolves, and Norwich, which I'd love to have Bamford for. Plus, you have this 2 weeks in here where he can fully recover. Now, that's the question. Is this a longer-term injury where he's also going to miss against Watford? Because then you've missed him 2 weeks in a row. His price is going to drop. I picked him up at 7.9, so I can take a 0.1 hit and still be okay. But other than that, you're going to start losing, cash, right? But then he should be back, you'd think, for Southampton, Wolves, and Norwich. Is it still worth keeping him? Or is this a much longer-term injury? Like, you're not going to get much out of Bielsa. He's not said. If it was just Bamford, we would not have a problem. But it's also, Raphinha is tagged as 50% chance of playing hip injury. Now, Bielsa said, when Bielsa went through his extraordinarily long list of injured players that were definitely out or out for the red card, it's like the last game of whoever the guy was that broke the Liverpool player's ankle. His last suspension is this week. So he was going through all of that. And, Raphinha was not listed, but it's like a wait and see for everyone else. Ayling also has a knock. Bissouma took a knock in the knee. Now, Bissouma I'm not as worried about because in the game against Leicester, he continued on. Like, he got a knock around, it was 45 minutes or something like that. He landed kind of awkwardly, but they kept him on until the 78th minute. So it couldn't have been that bad. Or could it? Like, did it swell afterwards? Because you look at a worst case scenario for this week, if Raphinha doesn't play and Bissouma doesn't play, I'm already going to put a 0 on somebody because Cody would come in. And if anybody else misses, you're also going to take a double 0. That's not great. And so I'm going to keep tabs on this as to, again, if it's just Bamford and these 3 players are likely to play, or 2 of the 3 are likely to start and play, then I probably won't be as panicked. But we have to prepare and plan for the future because I'm not going to be getting up at 5:30 in the morning tomorrow morning to make this decision. I don't know about you. It's just not that important to me. So then what do you do if you were going to have Bamford, Raphinha, let's say Bissouma plays, and Ayling, okay, all out? Well, then, again, we'd be sitting here like this, and that's not exactly a strong squad. And if anybody else has a knock or misses or whatever, then you're missing out completely. So you go like, okay, do I really want to do that? So my initial plan, as I used my wild card, and I'm going to pull up a spreadsheet here that I had, I was considering leaving my 3 strikers at place, Vardy, Antonio, and Bamford, at least until Antonio gets to game week 11, where he faces Liverpool, and then Wolves, and then Man City. So I thought after game week 10, I might sell Antonio. Now that means you're missing the Ronaldo and the Lukaku train. I just kind of go, putting all your 11.6 as it sits right now into Lukaku is a big ask for me, even though the fixtures look incredible. But it's like, are they going to rotate him because the fixtures look incredible and they've got Champions League? So what do you do with this, right? So originally I was going, okay, we would, if we didn't have all these injuries, the next week I would sell Diego Jota and bring on Kovacic, because I think he's a bargain at 5.1. He's got 4, I think, returns this season, and he has the same amazing fixtures as Lukaku, but I think he's more likely to pick up something unexpected, is kind of the idea. And so I go, okay, do I want Vardy, Antonio, Bamford, or do I want to drop one of them like Bamford and some other stuff to finagle to get Lukaku, or do I keep those 3 and bring on Kovacic? And then I also thought by that point, if I didn't make any transfers this week, next week I'd have 2 transfers, and I could sell Marçal and bring on Rudiger, because I do want to get Rudiger or Reece James. Chelsea defense looks pretty good. And then from there, it's like, okay, you roll to game week 9. Game week 9 and 10, Bissouma was going to have Man City and Liverpool. So I was like, okay, maybe you sell Bissouma after game week 8, because he's not going to give you much in those 2 games, even at 4.5. But he's only 4.5. So you go, maybe it's worth it. So now I kind of go, well, shoot, like, what do we do here? So here's essentially what the options kind of look like. I'm going to move my spreadsheet over here so I can still see the chat. Thanks for hopping in so randomly. Make sure you hit the like button, and if you're new around here, subscribe. It's all over there. Like you didn't know. You watch YouTube. It's over there. So options. Okay. I am on the transfer screen. I got 1 free transfer. I got 2.1 in the bank. You could, if Bamford's going to be out until after the international break, you can always bring him back in. So you could drop him, but then you go, well, who do you bring in? Okay, if we look at the forwards here, I'd have 10.0 in the bank. So you could bring in Jesus. Yeah? He plays Chelsea and Liverpool. Not a good time to be picking up a Man City player. You could bring on Alan Saint-Maximin. I mean, he's gotten as many returns as Bamford. I think Bamford's got 4, maybe. Let's check here. Bamford's got 3. So he's got more returns this season than Bamford. He's a 6.7, so you're saving the money. He's got Watford, Wolves, Tottenham, Crystal Palace, and then Chelsea. But, as a third option for your striker, not exactly terrible, but also Callum Wilson's going to come back at some point. And really, Newcastle's terrible. Right? Drawing with Leeds, lost to Man United, drawing to Southampton, lost to Villa, and then lost to West Ham. Is that the team you want to be rolling with to pick up some goals? Now, you could argue, right? They scored 2 here, none here, 2 here, 1 against Man United, who has a pretty, decent defense, and 1 against Leeds. And then you get Watford, who have given up some goals. Wolves, until Brentford, were doing okay. Tottenham, always a tough game. And then Crystal Palace. Is that really a player you want to jump to? I don't know. Ings, I don't think is an option, even though he's in the price range, because he's Man United and Tottenham. So kind of the same problem. I think he might be okay, but whatever. Lukaku, even if you could get to him this week, he plays Man City and then Southampton. So you could take a hit, right? Drop Bamford and somebody else and get a price difference and pick up Lukaku, but I'm not convinced I want to get Lukaku. That's probably a mistake. But I think if I look at my squad, okay, I know Lukaku didn't play the first match, but my 2 strikers, Antonio and Vardy, have more points than Lukaku. Now, they've got one extra game. Antonio, I guess, doesn't because he had the red card. Like, I'm okay. So, okay, do you leave if Bamford's only going to be out a week because he's been walking around and seemed fine? Do you leave Bamford? Well, then the question becomes, which of your midfielders do you drop? I do plan to sell Jota next week. He takes on Brentford this week. I'd like to see, like, I've already eaten 2 3-point weeks in a row from Jota. I'd like to see if we could get a return this week. And it's like, you just know. This is part of FPL for me. It's like, if I go and sell the player, and then he gets a goal and an assist, even it doesn't matter what your other players do. It doesn't matter that you're going to sell him the next week. You're like, oh, like I missed out. And I'd feel pretty garbage about that. So I'm like, I don't want to sell him until next week. I'm not going to sell Salah. I just brought in Raphinha. And again, if he's like got a hip knock and it's 50%, I've heard that he's been called up to the Brazilian squad, which is in, again, a couple weeks. It's not like a 4-month injury, right? And he's got such good games. Like, even if he was out this week, you've got Watford, Southampton, Wolves, and Norwich. I think you keep Raphinha. So that kind of leaves Doucouré, who I just brought in. But he plays Norwich today, or this weekend. Do I really want to drop that? He might not get you much, but he's a 5.5, right? You're not expecting a lot. So that, for me, leaves Bissouma, who I'd love to keep through Norwich in week 8, but I was already planning on selling him because of Man City and Liverpool. So, but the problem is, he's the most likely to play. So if I drop Bissouma, right, and we switch this over to my midfield option, I've got 6.6 in the bank if I do that. I think the most logical choice, I already want Kovacic, but I don't want him necessarily against Man City. Now, you could eat that this week. So that's option A, or 1, because I'm not making an A with my hand. Benrahma was a 6.0, and he's up to a 6.5. But he's taking on Leeds. And Leeds' defense, Leeds' whole team is in, like, the infirmary, right? Like, do you go, this is a chance to get an upgrade? And again, the fixtures aren't terrible, but they're not great. You play Brentford, who have been all right. Everton's got some injuries. Tottenham been all right. You got Villa, who defensively been all right. And then you got Liverpool. But he could be one of those, like, you're making a change, and maybe this is what you do instead of Kovacic. But then next week, okay, let's say we went with Benrahma. You sell, that leaves us 0.1 in the bank. You sell Diego Jota. You now have 7.7 for game week 7. Who do you pick up? Kovacic at that point, right? So you've missed the Man City. Now you pick up this run of fixtures. That's probably where I would go. But then you're left with 2.6. Okay, so and I'm using one free transfer at a time, so I'm not banking any extra transfers, right? Then the next game week, I'd probably go to, like, take Marcel out and bring on Rudiger or James, right? Again, look at the fixtures. I'm guessing you probably get minimum 2 clean sheets out of that run, right? Southampton, Brentford, Norwich, Newcastle, Burnley. You'd think at least 2 clean sheets. I think that'd be a worthwhile upgrade. Now, this depends on when you bring him in. If you bring him in game week 8, you also have to wait to see if there's any injuries over the international break to any of your other players, all that kind of stuff. But then I could see a path to where you bring in Rudiger. You got 1.6 in the bank, and this is your squad. Again, assuming that Bamford comes back next week, then are you happy with this squad moving forward? So that's kind of where I'm at, because for me, it really depends. Like, we really need someone to figure out how long Bamford's going to be out. Because if he's not out for long, if he's not out for long, that's what I would probably do. Is I take Bissouma, who I'm planning on selling anyway in a couple weeks, and bring on a Benrahma or somebody like that who's going up against Leeds today or this weekend. The following week, I was already going to sell Diego Jota, sell Jota, bring in Kovacic, bank that money, and then the following week, use that money to bring in Rudiger in game week 8. You could always take a hit, right? That's the other option. You could take a hit. But if Bamford's out long-term injury, that changes things, obviously. And I don't see many good options, because that means, like, you have to sell Bamford today. His price is going to drop. Like, if he's out for a month, like, let's say he's going to miss the West Ham, Watford games, and then maybe even the Southampton game after the international break. Now you're only getting Wolves and Norwich before Leicester, Tottenham. Like, you're not playing Man City and Liverpool in here, but it's not great, right? So and you've missed out on 3 game weeks. You can't be sitting on a 0 with one of your strikers at 7.9 for 3 game weeks. So who do you bring in? Again, I automatically was going to go to Calvert-Lewin. Now he comes back October 2nd, but it's like you're trading one injured player for another, and Calvert-Lewin would come back against Man United, which isn't that great anyway. So like originally I had planned on going to him at some point. You've got Maupay, who's got Crystal Palace, Arsenal, Norwich, but then he gets Man City and Liverpool, so you're going to have to drop him again. Most likely, right? Now, he's only costing you 6.5, so maybe you just bench him for these 2 weeks, and you play like a 3-5-2 or a 4-4-2. You don't have that third striker up. Maybe. I'm not excited about anybody else. Like, again, St. Maximin, okay, like, maybe he's the option. He's 6.7, right? You bring him in instead, which would leave you 3.3 in the bank, and you could really upgrade, right? So next week you could even take a hit. You could sell Jota, and now you've got 10.9 if you go back to the midfielders, and you could bring in Son, who gets Villa, Newcastle, West Ham again, not exactly always going to have a clean sheet, and then Man United, but then like not a bad run of games, so you could bring in like a Son, or you could do what we talked about and bring in like a Kovacic, sell Bissouma. You still have 10.3. You could still do Kovacic and Son here, and then that only leaves you 0.3. You wouldn't be able to get to Rudiger at that point, right? So you can't. You'd like to not spend the 10.0 to get to Son. You could go Torres again after Liverpool. So maybe you go to Rudiger here, and then in game week 8 you bring Torres in. You're just sitting on money in the bank though and not using it is kind of the problem. So what would you do if you were me? Unreal Gecko, I see you don't play FPL this year, but I'd probably trade Bamford for someone. Okay. So for me, it just depends on how long that injury is going to be. Again, same thing like if Raphinha's out, like that could be not good too, right? It's like, okay, let's just play around with this. If we had all the money in the universe, I do think Rudiger is a good choice. You have 9.3, so that would leave you, whatever order you did it in, 9.3 gets you just about anybody you want except Bruno or the 2 main Liverpool guys and Son on a 9.3. For, again, if you did this on like game week 8. So, okay, let's take a look at like Greenwood. I don't love the Man United fixture run. I think you bail out of the Man United stuff. Again, people are going to be hopping on Sarr because he got a brace last week against Norwich. But like before that, he had a goal against Villa, and that's it. I just don't think Watford are that good. Okay, what's Brentford's fixture? Maybe Tony. Nope. I like the idea, but Tony's fixtures, oh my goodness. Let's take a look. Liverpool, West Ham, Chelsea, Leicester. And then it gets better, right? But it's just like, you're going to sell Bamford to bring Tony in against Liverpool this week. Ooh. Because and even if you put him on the bench, right? Then your 4-4-2, let's go back over to here. Your 4-4-2, if you've got him here on the bench, so if, I guess that way if Raphinha doesn't play, you do have him to come in, right? Or again, if this was Tony, he could come in. But I just don't like the long-term fixtures. Now, he's got 24 points this season, right? He got a goal against Villa and a goal against and an assist against Wolves. But again, 3 returns. Like, didn't get anything against Crystal Palace. Even though they beat Arsenal, he didn't get the goals or assists against Arsenal. Brighton, they didn't do anything. I'm just not convinced. Like, I would take St. Maximum over Tony right now, because at least they've shown that they could score, and I think the fixtures are more likely to get them. Yeah, oof, maybe not. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. So it's kind of like, it kind of leaves you in a bind. The other option that people have brought up, and I can't get on board with it yet, is Raul Jimenez. Love him as a player, right? Before he got injured, right? He's given us 23 returns in 2018-19 and 24 returns 2019-2020, and then he gets the horrible head injury. Wolves have not scored a lot. And by not a lot, I mean at all. He's had a lot of chances. Like, I watch Andy, who Let's Play FPL, is a channel I've watched a lot this year to try and get into this. And Jimenez has had a ton of chances in the box. They just not put any in the back of the net. But it's like, you almost kind of go like, until you prove that you can do it. Now, fixtures look okay. Southampton, Newcastle, Villa, Leeds. Again, I'm not saying Villa's terrible, okay? But just like, okay. Leeds, Everton, if they've still got injuries. Now, that's November. That's a month from now, right? It wouldn't be... like when I went to Bamford, the other option people had talked about is going to Jimenez and just hoping that like you're getting him at the bottom and he's going to surge up because he's going to start scoring some goals. But Wolves have a new manager and have yet to score. Or no. Yeah, they conceded here. Yeah, they've yet to score. No. Or have they scored? So no. I'm getting with the home and away thing, it throws me off. Hold on a second. Wolves have scored twice. They got 2 goals. 2 goals. Sorry. Against Watford. And he wasn't involved in them. So you go, they've scored 2 goals in 5 games, and the only team that they've scored against is Watford, who just came up for the championship. But Watford are in a better position than Newcastle. That's the other thing, right? It's like, you go like, well, if you're playing that game, then Newcastle right now have scored a total of 6 goals and conceded 13. But that's more than Wolves 2. But is it going to continue? So I think I'm going to leave it for now. Like, I've got 10 hours today before I'm hitting the sack and then moving on, right? Like, we'll figure it out. So I'll have to make a decision at some point. But I kind of think like, if someone can figure out, like, ask Bamford directly or ask Bielsa, how long is Bamford going to be out for? That's the determining factor. Because what you don't want to do is drop him because he's going to be out this week and then he's back for this run. And you go like, oh. But if that's the case, if you go back to, if you're keeping Bamford, then I do think I have to sell Bissouma today and bring on with my 6.6 like a Benrahma. Okay, leaving me 0.1. And then next week, I'm selling Diego Jota to bring on Kovacic. And then the next week with my 2.6, I'm selling Marçal to bring on Rudiger. And I have money in the bank. That's where I'm at. What would you do if you're watching this after the fact because you didn't catch it live? Leave a comment below. I'm going to take you to my current squad so you can see the full picture here with, I have 2.1 in the bank, I think. Yeah, 2.1? 2.1 in the bank. I have 2.1 in the bank and this squad with 1 free transfer to make. Would you roll Bamford until next week? Would you make 1 free transfer? If so, who? Would you make 2 transfers and take the -4? If so, who? What would you do if you're in my shoes? Thanks again for hopping on so quickly here. I got to get back to work. This is my lunch break. Hit that like button, my friends. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.